Hi dear viewers of my channel, here are the new chapters out. I will say from myself, I was shocked at what was going on. Here is the guy who wrote a comment under the last video. If you also want to get in the video, then write something in the comments and you will have a chance. And I want to wish you a pleasant viewing, because this part came out very interesting. The weather was clear outside. The hero's pet was moving on a dragon on the water, while the angel got up from the bed with the most gray-eyed look possible. After which he instantly pulled up his shirt and put on his goggles. Angel looked as graceful as possible. Not a trace of his bruises remained. After which he started running in an unknown direction. He greeted a huge number of animals that were near him. He was talking to a bird and decided that it wanted to hear him sing. Then he started to take air into his lungs and the whole neighborhood was filled with angelic singing, which the animals liked very much. The people were very happy. They liked the angels singing. Unlike Lloyd's singing, they don't die from it. A man said that although the angel had been their enemy before, it was now their source of vigor, while another man said that it was different from Lloyd's singing. The other man also recognized that it was unimaginably different from Lloyd's singing, who stood behind him and listened intently. He apologized to the protagonist, and added that Lloyd's singing gave all the people in the village nightmares, and that this reaction was normal. The protagonist started to get annoyed with the angels singing, while Xavier said that it was better to be an angel than a demon suffering in hell. Lloyd was angry because it wasn't him who attacked people. It was the angel, while Xavier said that people's hearts had already thawed, while the angel was enjoying every moment he was in this place. Xavier said that if Lloyd didn't like the angel so much, he could just kick him out, while Lloyd explained that the contract was already signed, and the angel would be very useful to them. In the past, the protagonist told the angel that he needed to know in advance what the heavenly realm would do about the pearl, and the angel said that with the phone it wouldn't be a problem because they would have all the news from heaven. The protagonist asked if the angel would be able to prove he was an angel during the punishment period. The angel pulled out his wings. Lloyd called it impressive, while the angel added that even though they lost all powers visually, he could show them. A smile appeared on Lloyd's face. He had already thought of a plan to help him win. The protagonist told Xavier that because of their cruelty in the sky, they had decided to call a meeting to solve their issue. Lloyd thought it would take too long and they needed to get it done. The protagonist smiled and said that in just a few hours everything would be ready. The guy turned to Xavier, who said that Lloyd's song was actually much better. The protagonist didn't understand why Xavier would start talking such nonsense. Xavier recognized that the sounds were indeed horrible, as if the demon kings themselves were agonizing in agony from that infernal scream, the kind of words Lloyd easily accepted. Xavier asked if those were the reasons Lloyd didn't like to sing. He suggested that the hero was uncomfortable, and then he fell into despondency. Xavier added that even so, Lloyd sings with all his might to save the people closest to him, regardless of the embarrassment. Xavier said that if there is a most noble song in the world, it is the main character's song. Lloyd's eyes widened and his mouth twisted. Lloyd asked if Xavier was crazy, and Xavier said he didn't want to hear it. Lloyd got angry and silently looked in Xavier's direction, then continued on his way, saying that if Xavier was trying to tease him, it would calm him down a bit. At that time, Lloyd's smile could be seen in the reflection of the water, and yes, Xavier was smiling at that moment as well. They continued walking in silence. No one wanted to say anything. At that time, on the construction site, a bird was flying at great speed towards the pearl. It threw the last artifact needed to activate the pearl, and that artifact instantly turned into something intangible, then began to be absorbed into the pearl. The energy of the artifact began to spread throughout the pearl, after which the protagonist instantly gained 8,500 points. Lloyd began shouting to people to open the airlock. Moments later, water began to flow into the place, under tremendous pressure. The hero also got 1,500 points for this. The water began to come to the pearl at a great speed, and just a moment later it was covered with liquid to the top. Lloyd descended into the water. While the energy circulated, the protagonist rejoiced that it was now that he would finally be able to get an answer. Lloyd started the process of activating the pearl, and light began to emerge from it. The pearl said hello to the protagonist and told him that it could answer any question, but in return it had to tell him a secret that only Lloyd knew. The protagonist looked at the artifact in incomprehension, as he didn't know what to say. The protagonist thought about what should the pearl be told, what secret does only Lloyd know. The protagonist began to tell that after doing things in the toilet he takes toilet paper, then twists it and digs it deep into the ground, then turns 5 times to the left and 5 to the right, repeating the procedure 3 times. After that, from the top of the artifact light started to move to the top. This secret appeared in the sky. Absolutely all people could see the secret that a moment ago only Lloyd knew. This made Lloyd very much embarrassed. At that time Xavier asked how deep, which made Lloyd angry, and he asked to just forget those words. Xavier said that when the pearl activates there will be a very strong pulse, and he is worried. Lloyd didn't understand why Xavier was acting so strange since morning. Then the pearl said that now Lloyd can ask what he is interested in. The protagonist talked about the fate restoration trying to kill people, and asked if there was a way to stop the process. The pearl began to glow, after which it instantly released a huge amount of energy. Xavier protected Lloyd with his energy. At that time the hero found himself in an incomprehensible, very empty space. The pearl explained that it was a space for conversation and only the protagonist would know the secret. The artifact began the story that the real Lloyd should be dead, but he is alive. Also Lloyd took the place of the protagonist, which originally should have been Xavier. For this reason the world tries to kill Lloyd to restore destiny and return Xavier his place. But the world experiences a mistake because of Lloyd's bugs, and cannot find the protagonist. Fate seeks to restore the original story, even if it means destroying randomness. Pearl said that in order to restore peace they need to reboot the narrative, and this can be done by establishing a single protagonist. She said that once Lloyd or Xavier dies, that's when the story will reboot. Pearl added that there is no other way. In the real world, Lloyd was on his knees while Xavier tried to bring him to his senses. The protagonist had a panic attack, and Xavier was trying to revive him. Lloyd, on the other hand, was thinking about the fact that he kept trying. He believed he could get better. Xavier asked Lloyd to breathe. It appeared the hero was having some heart problems right now. Lloyd thought he would just have to be patient for a little while and then it would get better. Lloyd couldn't breathe properly. It seemed he was going to die. In his head Lloyd tried to swim out of his eternal problems, but in reality Xavier was trying to resuscitate the protagonist, because now he was on the verge of death. At that time in his head everything was black and white, and in reality he looked terrible. It seemed that he was going to die. Xavier tried to restore Lloyd with his aura. At that time the hero asked what would happen if he died. The pearl said that if he was resurrected it wouldn't work. The hero asked if it would work if he just went to soul, because then he wouldn't be in the world. Pearl said that it didn't mean he was dead. Lloyd's heart began to freeze at a rapid rate. While the Heart of Ice was very worried that Lloyd would die at that rate, it hoped that Xavier could do something about it, while the system explained that it was a mental illness, adding that there was nothing she could do about it. While the main character's eyes lost their luster, and the pearl said that the only way to solve the problem was for Lloyd or Xavier to die. Lloyd's eyes began to close while the pearl said that was it. The time freeze that had been there all along was instantly gone and the world went on again. While Lloyd clutched at his heart and screamed in pain, he agonized lying on his bed. The protagonist didn't understand what was happening. He thought the system had decided to mess with him and force him to make a choice. The protagonist thought that how can she think she is above gods and demons? Who is she? While the system asked for forgiveness, the hero said that he is always weak, because he is an unhappy person who is destined to always remain unhappy. The Heart of Winter was also worried about the protagonist, while Lloyd lay on the bed and could not do anything. The boy's parents were very worried about their son, while Xavier said that Lloyd was just a bit overworked. The mother wondered if the lad had found a way to solve the misfortune that threatened them. Xavier piously believed that Lloyd knew exactly how to solve the problem. The father seemed to understand something and looked intently in the direction of Xavier, who was looking just as intently into the man's eyes. Father said he understood and asked Xavier to take care of Lloyd. Then they started to leave. As Xavier silently began to turn toward the door, he stepped inside and said that although he didn't know what answer Lloyd had heard from the Pearl of Truth, he believed one thing, and that is that Lloyd is the man who can find the answers to all questions. Lloyd did not react to the words, while Xavier asked him to wait a little longer, because he would do everything he could to make the Lord wake up. Xavier was determined to get out of Lloyd's room while Lloyd lay on the bed. Xavier was worried if he could do what he had planned, then decided that of course he could. After all, he had watched Lloyd so many times that Lloyd's Zastic had become a part of Xavier and he was confident. Angel revealed that he had news. namely that heaven was planning to bring Lloyd back. Xavier asked when that would happen. The angel said that there was no exact date, as the meeting could be delayed. Xavier stared at the angel in silence for a moment, then grabbed the candles, made them into a sword sheath and a stick, put the candles around him and lit them instantly. The angel didn't understand what Xavier was doing, while the boy explained that he was praying. Xavier remembered the angel's words that if he prayed secretly and persistently, his words would be heard. He began to beg for Lloyd's return as quickly as possible, because there was no time at all. Angel was shocked at how sincere Xavier was in asking for Lloyd back. They couldn't even ignore such a loud and clear prayer. They couldn't help but answer it. A portal appeared in front of Xavier and he said it was easy. Xavier motioned for Angel to come with him. Angel didn't understand why. The angel confessed that because of the trouble that had happened because of him, he might have to answer personally and he was scared. Xavier silently grabbed Angel, who begged him not to. Xavier, however, reminded Angel of the contract he had signed with the protagonist and he was obligated to help. Xavier said that this is when they go to get the remedy for Lloyd. Xavier, with a mad look, together with Angel on his shoulder, started to climb up. After that, they found themselves in front of the old man. The old man said that he thought Xavier was a man of noble character, which is just crazy. Xavier said that noble people can also complain, and added that the angel spoke of people who complain as if they were inferior beings. Suddenly the halo above the angel's head began to blush, for this could have been a humiliation to the client. The angel apologized, then said that Xavier was wrong, for if they knew how dangerous the pearl was. Xavier interrupted Angel and said that tearing down the pearl was the right thing to do, because the artifact shouldn't exist. Angel was surprised that they were going to tear down the pearl. At that time Xavier, with a look inherited from Lloyd, said that of course they would tear down the pearl, but under certain conditions. Xavier asked when the angels knew about the construction of the pearl. The angel said that maybe since the heart of winter appeared. Suddenly Xavier slapped the old man's desk, which startled him. Xavier asked why the angels had not told him at once that it was not worth building the pearl, but had waited until it was almost completed. Did they really want to mock him? Angel confessed that he didn't think the humans could really get all the materials. Xavier assumed that Angel had decided not to do anything until he smelled something fiery. The old man was shocked that Xavier was taking advantage of something that was hidden deep in his heart. Xavier asked if his speculation about the angel's thoughts was true. The old man began to cry and said that it was true. In fact, angels can't lie. Xavier began to say that because the angels were not performing their duties well, they should delay the demolition of the pearl. The angel seemed unwilling to agree to such terms. Xavier interrupted the old man, saying that because of the angels' actions the humans had suffered, the celestials should make life easier for the humans. Could they do that? The angel couldn't resist the facts, and said that until then they should keep an eye on the artifact. Xavier thanked the angel sincerely for his generous concern. Angel senses lies, and looking at Xavier he sees an incredibly sincere man. Xavier then began to talk about the second condition. He said that Angel would be sent to the kingdom of Manhwa and deliver an artifact to Lloyd that could help him get out of his current state. Angel was shocked at this request. He began to scream that it was too much. They had just talked about the problem and solved it. Xavier said that it should be as compensation. After all, he had been up for several nights thinking about the conflict with the heavens, and they were obligated to compensate for that heartache. Angel was shocked. He thought Xavier was much angrier than he might have thought at first glance. Angel was surprised, but Xavier's words were true, and the pain was such that he simply cannot help but compensate for it. At that time Xavier's face began to frighten the angel, who had earlier thought to invite him to heaven. But now he was sure that he was a client from hell. Thank you so much for watching the video to the end. Xavier is a true legend to me. What do you think? I would also like to ask you to watch my other videos, because only thanks to your support I continue to publish videos. Thank you all for watching this video. As soon as the new chapters are released, I will instantly release the sequel. Thank you all. Bye.